Okay, so come again, we will see another aspect of the financing decision today. That's a buyback of shares. Sometimes people say buyback is also a form of giving the return to the shareholder. What is this buyback of shares? In principle, when the shares are issued by the company, shares cannot be bought back. That means by default, shares are not redeemable except unless they are redeemable preference shares. So when the shares are issued and the shareholders buy, shareholders can exit of the company only by selling it in the active capital markets. But otherwise, company cannot buy its shares back. But there is a route called buyback of shares. The Companies Act allow a company to buy back its own shares. Buyback of shares affects the solvency position or the risk of the debt holder. So buyback is a conditioned decision. Lots of conditions are attached to this buyback. If a company wants to buy back its shares, then it has to fulfill certain conditions. The condition number one, there has to be enough profits or reserves. So that means a loss-making company cannot go for a buyback. Condition number two, the debt equity ratio of the buyback company post buyback cannot exceed 2:1. That means you cannot expose your company to high debt equity ratio post buyback. Similarly, there should be no statutory obligations on the balance sheet, and the entire process should be completed within 1 year. And also along with that, there is a small accounting condition that the amount of the bought back shares should be transferred to capital redemption reserve. So these are the conditions attached to that. But who will decide the price? Why the companies go for buyback, and what is the impact of buyback on the company's balance sheet? So the price at which the company buy back the shares depends on the price at which the shares are traded in the market. Invariably, a common sense, I'll say rule of thumb, companies generally buy their shares back at a price higher than the market price so that the shareholder have a motivation to sell the shares. And the benefit of this, that its visible benefit is the earning per share of the company goes up because the number of shares goes down. The invisible result may be the stake of the promoters can go up because of the buyback of shares. The another positive effect may be the buyback of share is also used as a tool to protect against the takeovers, particularly hostile takeovers when the promoter stake goes up. So buyback is a very interesting management decisions. If buyback is treated, or rather whether buyback should be treated as a financing decision or an investment decision. In India, no company is allowed to hold on to its own shares. That means if a company buys its own share, that has to be destroyed. So that to that extent, cash goes down, capital goes down. So it's a means of capital redemption, is a means of capital reduction. Whereas in US, it's possible to hold these shares bought back on the balance sheet as an asset. So for them, I can say that it can be treated as an investment decision. Whereas in India, if you buy the shares back, it has to be destroyed. So that in principle, if you see, if a company is having huge cash sitting on the balance sheet, it has a freedom to use it to invest, to give dividend, or to buy back his shares. So in principle, or buy some shares of some other company. So therefore, if a company wants to buy the shares of other company, you call it an investment, why should not be allowed to buy its own share? It doesn't send any positive signal in Indian law. So there is a possibility some changes can happen there. But as of now, whenever the company buys back its share, the number of shares are reduced. As a result, the net worth goes down. As a result, the earning per share will go up. That's the expectation. So buyback is an interesting decision by which you try to reduce capital, manage the net worth of the company. Thank you very much.